Some fathers leave behind wealth. Some leave behind property. Mine left something far more valuable. Lessons. Not through long lectures, but through simple conversations, quiet corrections, and the way he lived his life every single day. Over time, those small moments turned into lessons that shaped the way I see money, failure, character, courage, and leadership. These are 10 life lessons my father taught me that I will carry with me for the rest of my life. Growing up, I didn't always realize I was being taught these lessons. Sometimes they came during a casual conversation, sometimes during a mistake I made, and sometimes simply by watching how my father handled life. But as the years passed, I began to understand that these lessons were not just advice. They were principles for living a meaningful life. Here are 10 of the most important lessons my father taught me. 1. The definition of money. One of the first lessons my father taught me was about money. I remember sitting at the kitchen table as a kid, watching him pay bills and budget for groceries. The sounds of coins clinking and receipts rustling became lessons in themselves. He didn't lecture me. He just explained why he made certain choices, and over time, I began to see the logic behind them. Like many people, I once believed money was the answer to most problems. I thought more meant better, and less meant struggle. But he explained something different. Money, he said, is not an end, it's a tool. Money does not magically solve everything. It cannot fix relationships, health, or happiness. What it truly provides is freedom and flexibility. Freedom to make choices without constant stress. Freedom to help the people around you without hesitation. Freedom to live life with a little less pressure, a little more breathing room. And once you understand that, your relationship with money begins to change. It's no longer a source of worry. It becomes a resource for living intentionally. 2. Want versus need. Another lesson he repeated often was about understanding the difference between wants and needs. He told me that I would need a job. I would need a paycheck. Those basics were non-negotiable. But beyond that, he warned, life becomes confusing when people chase every want and forget what they truly need. Wants can be endless. New gadgets, flashy clothes, the next big thing. Needs, on the other hand, are much simpler. Food, shelter, security, relationships that matter. And when you lose sight of what truly matters, it becomes easy to spend your life chasing things that never really bring fulfillment. He wanted me to see that happiness doesn't come from accumulation. It comes from clarity about what is essential. This video is created for educational and inspirational purposes. The lessons shared here reflect personal experiences and perspectives meant to encourage reflection and growth. 3. Fear and failure. My father also taught me something powerful about failure. I can still remember the first time I tried something big and failed miserably. At the time, it felt overwhelming. Like the effort, the hope, and the courage I had gathered were all wasted in a single moment. I came home frustrated and ready to give up. I expected a lecture or some long explanation about what I had done wrong. He just sat with me for a while, calm and patient, letting the moment settle. Then he said something that stuck forever. People who are afraid to fail are often afraid to succeed. Because to achieve anything meaningful, you must be willing to take risks. Growth almost always requires stepping into uncertainty, where outcomes are never guaranteed. And sometimes those risks don't work out. Sometimes you fail. But failure is never the end of the world. It is simply part of learning and growing, a necessary step on the path toward improvement. And no matter what happens, you are still worthy of love simply for being who you are. 4. Be kind and responsible. Another lesson he lived by was kindness and responsibility. I remember one rainy afternoon when a neighbor's car broke down. The rain was steady, the street quiet, and most people would have stayed inside. But without hesitation, he grabbed a toolbox, walked over, and helped them get the car running again. When the neighbor tried to thank him, he simply smiled and brushed it off as if it were nothing. That simple act taught me more about empathy than any speech ever could. It showed me that kindness is not about recognition. It's about being present when someone needs help. My father always reminded me that you never truly know what another person has gone through. Everyone carries struggles you may never see, burdens they don't talk about, and challenges they quietly face. So treat people with empathy and compassion. At the same time, he believed strongly in responsibility. Kindness was important, but so was integrity. Do what you say you will do. Do it the right way, and do it with excellence. And if you make a mistake, own it. Apologize without excuses, learn from it, and do better next time. 5. Work hard. Work was something my father never avoided. He believed work was necessary for a productive life, not just as a way to earn a living, but as a way to build character. Growing up, I watched him approach every task with quiet determination. Whether the job was big or small, he treated it with the same level of seriousness and focus. Work teaches discipline. It requires showing up even on the days when motivation is low and pushing forward when things feel difficult. Work strengthens the mind as much as the body. It trains you to stay committed, to solve problems, and to keep moving forward even when progress feels slow. And beyond the paycheck, work gives a sense of purpose. It reminds you that your effort contributes to something larger than yourself. Through work, you learn commitment, patience, and the value of effort. 6. Always dream big. Despite his practical mindset, my father never discouraged big dreams. In fact, he encouraged them. Even though he believed in responsibility and hard work, he also believed that life should never be limited by small thinking. He wanted me to understand that practicality and ambition can exist together. He believed that people should dream big and chase what truly inspires them. Dreams, he would say, are what give direction to effort and meaning to long hours of work. There are moments in life when you must be realistic. Circumstances sometimes require patience, planning, and careful decisions. But realism should never kill passion, because many of the greatest achievements in the world began as dreams that others thought were impossible. Every innovation, discovery, and breakthrough started with someone who refused to believe that their vision was too big. 7. Be brave. Life, as my father reminded me, is not always easy. There will always be moments when things don't go according to plan, times when uncertainty, pressure, and disappointment appear without warning. I remember a time when he faced a major career setback. It was the kind of moment that could shake anyone's confidence. He didn't panic or complain. Instead, he remained steady, thoughtful, and focused on what needed to be done next. He faced it head-on, calmly, and with courage. Watching him that day taught me more about bravery than anything else. Every man will face challenges. Difficult seasons are part of the journey, and no life is completely free from hardship. But what defines a person is not the difficulty itself. It is how they respond to it. It is normal to feel fear. Fear is a natural human reaction to uncertainty. But fear should never stop you from moving forward. Be yourself. Stand firm. And keep going. 8. Be you. One of the most important lessons he gave me was simple. I remember being a teenager, comparing myself to others constantly. It's easy at that age to look around and feel like everyone else has something you don't. More talent, more confidence, or more success. He noticed it before I even said anything. One day, he sat me down and said, "Treasure, your worth isn't defined by anyone else. Be who you are, or no one will ever truly know you." Those words stayed with me. Do not allow anyone else to define who you are. The world will always offer opinions about who you should be, how you should act, and what success should look like. There will always be someone richer, taller, smarter, or more successful. Comparison never ends. If you measure your life against others, you will always find a reason to feel inadequate. But your identity should never depend on someone else's achievements. Know who you are, and never hand over that definition to anyone else. 9. Respect women. Respect for women was another principle my father emphasized, not just through words, but through actions. I watched how he spoke to the women in our family and community, with patience, attentiveness, and genuine regard. His behavior made it clear that respect is not something you simply talk about. It is something you practice every day. He taught me to listen, to understand, and to appreciate perspectives different from my own. Listening, he believed, was one of the simplest ways to show respect. Respect means treating women with dignity, patience, and genuine regard. It means valuing their voices, their experiences, and the roles they play in shaping the lives around them. It means recognizing the value they bring to families, communities, and society. 10. Be a leader. The final lesson my father taught me was about leadership. He explained that leadership is not something granted by a position or a title. It is something demonstrated through character and consistent behavior. He said you do not need a title to be a leader. Leadership begins with example. People watch what you do far more than they listen to what you say. It begins with the way you carry yourself, the way you treat others, and the standards you hold yourself to. The small choices you make every day quietly shape how others perceive and trust you. True leaders strive not only to improve their own lives, but to lift the people around them. They encourage growth, create opportunities, and leave situations better than they found them. Closing reflection. Looking back, I realized my father was not simply giving advice. He was passing down a way of living. Lessons about discipline, character, courage, kindness, and purpose. These lessons continue to guide me long after those conversations ended. And if there is one thing I have learned, it is this. The greatest inheritance a parent can leave behind is not money or possessions. It is wisdom, because the right lessons can guide someone for a lifetime. Thanks for watching. Guiding Veil Echoes reveals the deeper forces behind history, power, and human behavior. Subscribe to understand the world beyond the surface.